He's up. He's ready to go. Okay. Well, joining us when it rains, it pours. And we are, as a matter of fact, expecting first big rain here later this afternoon. So, perfect day. It's like the Niners and Niner fans have that, like the whoever that was in the Peanuts that has the little cloud, the rainy cloud following them everywhere. But yet analysis goes on and people want to hear it. Matt Barrows joins us after a tough weekend for our San Francisco 49ers. Good morning, Matt.
Morning. Do you mean Pigpen?
Yeah, so maybe I'm getting the cartoon wrong because as soon as I said it, I went, oh, because Pigpen has the dirt following him everywhere. Maybe it's like a fart.
Right. It's like a dust devil that follows him. Yeah.
Right. Maybe it's just one of those cartoons I'm remembering where everywhere you go, you have the little rainy cloud with the thunder. And it just, look, I've been a Niner fan since I was born. I know they've had really rough injury plagued seasons, but your job is not just covering the team, but you have a memory like a steel trap. When you take into account the quality of player, not just total injuries, where does this year rank when it comes to body blows injuries have caused to this franchise?
Well, I would have said entering this year that you could never beat 2020,
Yeah.
which was the back-to-back at MetLife where you lose Bosa, you lose Solomon Thomas, you lose Raheem Mostert, Jimmy Garoppolo, all in one fell swoop. And really, that was week 2, and your season was sunk from there. But this year is meeting that level. I mean, this is a team that has 8 team captains, a lot of team captains.
Yeah.
So it just that alone kind of shows you this is a team that has a lot of talent, but I don't know, is it 4 or 5 of those team captains have been hurt? Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Nick Bosa, and now Fred Warner have all been hurt. 2 of those guys out for the season. One of those guys has only played basically the half quarter, Kittle. This is something that you don't survive. And Mac Jones had a quote, and he was talking about Juwan Jennings. And he said, someone remarked to him yesterday, Juwan Jennings has been playing with 5 broken ribs and 2 different types of ankle sprains. And Mac Jones said, yeah, I mean, it's really commendable that he's able to get out there. He's a tough guy. He's toughing it out. That's part of his DNA. That's part of our team DNA, which is a wonderful sentiment, but I don't think that DNA is sustainable. I mean, we're only in week 6 here. There's still 11 more games to play. So, I mean, things are starting to become extremely precarious to the point where you think, okay, how does this team react? And is it a team that should strive to make the playoffs this year, do everything in its power to, or should they be more reserved and kind of save draft picks, things like that for the future?
Well, and I say funny, and I don't mean it ha-ha, but Kyle and I were talking earlier, and maybe the player we were all most worried about coming into the season, who still may, knock on wood, still may be a ticking time bomb, is Christian McCaffrey, and he couldn't. There's no way if you'd have told me before week 1 he'd have these amount of touches and still be there. By the way, I think, did we forget Brandon Ayuk as well in that injury list? You got that. My question, Matt, is coming into this weekend, you'd heard reports that John Lynch was very active and that a move was perhaps, some would say, more likely than not to help with the Nick Bosa situation. What does he do now? Because you get the feeling, right, that if John Lynch is the only guy, and his hands are a little tied cap-wise, but the only guy that can really I don't want to say save the season, but I will save the season. What do you think those conversations are like now that you've got not just Bosa, but Warner out? What do you think those conversations are like in the front office today?
I mean, they're still leading their division.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they knew that Tampa was going to be a tough opponent. And so I think that coming out of Tampa with a loss is not anything that they didn't expect. It's not the end of the world record wise. What what they didn't expect was to have lost Fred Warner for the rest of the season. So that's the real kind of altering thing here. I mean, Fred Warner is their Iron Man. He's the voice, the heart of that locker room. He's a lot of things to that team. So losing him, and not just for a few games, it's for the rest of the year. That alters things. So yeah, I do think that kind of convinces them. All right, we'll still look at the trade market, but now we're not talking about giving a first rounder or 2 seconds to a team for Trey Hendrickson. Now it's more like, okay, we'll discuss maybe a fifth rounder or a fourth or something middling that will help you get through the season, because the pass rush is still a huge issue. I mean, end of the game, they were getting nothing on Baker Mayfield. He was just carving them up. So now you've got zero pass rush, plus the middle of the defense isn't as covered as well as it had been because you don't have Fred Warner there, and that's a bad combination. And even when the opponent is missing its three best wide receivers, Baker Mayfield still looked really good and really efficient and was finding open guys all over the place.
All right, so then when it comes to Fred Warner, straight up, it's always the next man up. Whose shoulders does that fall on now?
That's Tatum Bethune, who was a rookie last year, seventh round rookie. He's good. He's a middle linebacker. He doesn't have the range that Fred Warner has. He doesn't have the size that Fred Warner has. He's not a team leader. Doesn't have the knowledge. And I think you saw that a couple of times in this game. They were doing two things. They lost Fred Warner on the second series, and then B, they were flipping their safeties around. And so all of a sudden, the communication, I thought, in that game wasn't quite as solid as it's been. I mean, Fred Warner's the guy that not only, gets the play from the sideline, calls it to his teammates, but when they're lining up, you see him all the time, like a traffic cop. He's making adjustments and things like that. And I think that they got burned on that first touchdown pass to, I can't remember who it was, but wide open wide receiver, no one in his vicinity. And then they got burned again later in the game with the deep ball to Tez Johnson. And I think those are both communication errors. As defenses say, they're busts. We busted the coverage. And I think when you have Fred Warner in there, and also when you're switching things up, they took Jason Pinnock, who had played to this point, Dave, every defensive snap of the season. He was sort of their veteran safety, the guy who'd been around, played a lot of snaps. He didn't play at all in defense yesterday, so they had Jair Brown and Marquise Siegel in to start the game, and then they worked Malik Mustafa in later. And so Brown played the whole game. Those other two guys essentially split duties. But my point is that they switched up the whole back half of the defense, and lo and behold, they also allowed their two longest touchdown passes of the year. I don't think that's any coincidence.
So this is a sports radio question, and I apologize for it. I'm just going to ask you, being that no one's closer to the team than you are, just to guess. If there was a straw poll before week one and the vote cards were vote cards were handed out to every member of the team, just the players alone. And the question was, what player can this team least afford to lose? Do you think Fred Warner would have won that vote?
I think that I'm going to go wishy-washy answer here. I think there are two players, Fred Warner on defense and Christian McCaffrey on offense.
Makes sense.
And you're seeing that.
Yeah.
Everything's going through McCaffrey. He keeps coming up with 100 yards from scrimmage games that just kind of underscores his importance to this team. And you saw it last year too. Team couldn't score points, couldn't move the ball, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, I think they're different. McCaffrey's not nearly as vocal. Fred Warner is always rallying this team. I mean, and when I say always, I mean from OTAs onward. He's the guy that gives the pregame, the pre-practice speech, the end of practice speech, the halftime speech, the Friday speech. He is the guy that everybody looks to toward leadership. He's the constant on that team. He gave a speech yesterday. He's got a broken ankle. He's in the locker room, and he's the one that breaks down the huddle. I've never heard of that in my life. The guy who suffers a career-ending injury, carted off the field, has an air cast on his foot, and he's the guy that's still the rock in the locker room who's giving the post-game in this case, eulogy, but speech to the rest of the guys. So, I mean, nothing kind of underscores who he is and what he means like that. So maybe that's a rallying point for this team. Maybe they can use it in some way. I'm sure Fred Warner wants them to. But boy, it's that's a tough ask. And frankly, I don't see it happening. It just seems, like I said, too precarious. The margins have become just too thin. You have to be perfect. And, this team isn't that. No team is. And hard to see them, being a consistently winning team over the second half of the season.
To be clear, as Matt Barrows of The Athletic joins us, no shock, but I 100% agree with you and am in lockstep with everything you said. I'm just going to try to blue sky it just to blue sky it here. They have Atlanta at home, at Houston. Those are going to be two tricky games, especially the second one. With the Rams put in there in the middle, you've got at the rebirthed New York Giants, but still the Giants. Rams at Cardinals, home Carolina, at Cleveland, home Tennessee, at Colts, home Chicago before they finish out against Seattle. Now, on paper, even though it looked like a lot better of a schedule 6 weeks ago, that still seems to be filled with under normal circumstances. I think under normal circumstances, Matt, we'd be looking at 1, 2, 3 losses at max the remainder of the year based on that schedule. That's obviously changed. But again, we're blue skying it. Is there a world in which John Lynch makes at least one impact move, Purdy comes back, other folks start coming back, whether they have 4 broken ribs instead of 5, or Ricky or whomever, Kittle, and this team is able to build momentum going into the postseason and still win the NFC West? Is that blue sky to you, or is there any realism in that line of thinking?
No, I think there's realism there. I mean, they're getting Kittle back. They're going to get Pearsall back. At some point, they're going to get Ayuk back. Let's just assume that McCaffrey stays healthy. That's a potent offense. That's an offense that should be scoring 30, 35 points a game. And frankly, I think they would need to score that in order to win with their 2 defensive stars out for the season. So, yeah, I mean, there's still a formula for them to win. The issue there is that's having everybody healthy. And this team hasn't had that. I mean, you can't wish for something that just hasn't occurred this year. Whenever somebody comes back from being on IR or back from injury, 2 more people leave on this team.
Yeah.
So it's always 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's why I'm skeptical about it. But yeah, I mean, the scenario is out there. They do have to play Rio Linda's Cam Scatterbo, who looks fantastic.
Yes.
There's some other, tougher than you would think games on the schedule. Who knows? The landscape could change again in the back half of the season. I just don't think just with the rate that they're losing players all the time, that they're going to be able to kind of plug the dam. The dam has too many breaches in it right now to save it.
So you kind of went through a lot of that there, but just to get an idea, best guess when it comes to injury reports. We know Bosa's out for the year. We know Warner's out for the year. We know Ayuk, correct me if I'm wrong, is still a ways out. You said Kittle is imminent. Purdy, I know Jennings is going to be probably day-to-day the rest of the year. How do you see these returns staggering?
I think Kittle and Purdy are possibilities for Sunday.
Okay.
So possibilities for the Atlanta game. I think that Pearsall, I'll throw him in there too. I think Pearsall is most likely to play Sunday. I think Purdy comes next, in part because Mac Jones is probably at this point more hurt than Purdy is.
Yeah.
Mac Jones needed a pain blocker before the game, and I think you saw that. I mean, I think you saw a guy, I think it was the second snap, he dives for extra yardage. So he's feeling good out there. But by the end of the game, I wonder if that pain blocker was starting to wear off a little, because he was just planted in that pocket. He was not moving anywhere. And, the Buccaneers took advantage. He was sacked 6 times. So he's not 100%. And then Kittle, they'll want to be careful. I think that, had the Tampa game been at home, we might have seen Kittle yesterday, but they were leery of that long plane flight, and they're leery of hamstrings becoming year-long issues. So they're going to be very cautious with it. But I think all 3 of those guys probably play against the Falcons. And then Ayuk is really the big question mark now. I think the week after that, then maybe you get Ben Barch back. He's the left guard. I think that would help. And then you're talking about, okay, is this the time to open up Ayuk's practice window? And maybe you get through that MetLife game against the Cam Scadaboos and the Jackson Darts, right, so that your guys aren't playing on that awful turf there. And then Ayuk starts playing the week after that.
Don't think him being a Rio Linda Sac State guy that we haven't been celebrating Cam Scadaboo. I have allowed myself a couple times, and of course hindsight's 2020. I'm in no way blaming John Lynch for this whatsoever, but I just imagine, like we talked about before, dropping Christian McCaffrey in this slot, putting Scadaboo out there behind Purdy, and just seeing what the hell could happen. He would have been he'd be fun on any team, but I think he'd really be fun on the 49ers.
Yeah, imagine Kyle Juice lead blocking for Cam. I mean, people would lose their minds. They would
literally from concussions that they'd be doling out back to back. My God. That's that's going to be my happy thought today, Matt. What would it be like Juszczyk leading for Scadaboo, and then you just put McCaffrey back there for a change of pace, as we talked Matt Barrows of The Athletic. Let's talk about this Falcons game here. I don't know what the hell the Falcons are, man. I really, really don't. They're coming off a bye week. They're coming off a bye week tonight. They play Buffalo tonight at home, and then they come to San Francisco. Is there something that stands out to you, either good for Niner fans about, well, the Niners are really good against this, or bad in the sense of, well, the Falcons' strength is this? Is there anything that stands out to you about this matchup?
Well, I think that they probably have the most talented running back in the league.
Yeah.
The thing with Bijan Robinson, I think it's Bijan.
That's what he said. Robinson. He said it's Bijan. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that they're careful not to overuse him, which if you were on the 49ers, he'd be in 100% of the snaps there. So I know that fantasy owners have lamented that for a while, but he's really talented, like Saquon Barkley type talent. So, I mean, I'm sure that is going to be the Falcons' game plan, is that you you get a lead on the 49ers, and you just kind of wear them down. No Fred Warner from now on. I think that you test that. I do think that, playing on Monday night and then going cross country and playing in Levi Stadium, that's an advantage for the 49ers.
Sure.
So this will be an interesting one to see what the 49ers mood is like, to see if they have that fight in them. My prediction is that, as plucky as they've been, and even yesterday was impressive. They were down one score towards the end of the game in this devastating circumstance. I think that their energy level will be good for the Falcons and week 8, week 9. I just don't know about November and December. And like I said, there are 11 more games to go here, and I think it's got to take its toll. It's taken its toll physically already. Is it going to take its toll mentally, emotionally at some point? And I think there's no way around it.
In Charlie Brown, it was actually, or in Peanuts, it was actually Charlie Brown that would have the rain cloud over him, especially when he pitched. And thanks to our loyal listener, Craig in Wisconsin, there was a character in the Flintstones named Schleprock who wore a gray and black striped hat, was perpetually depressed, was a friend of Pebbles and Bam Bam, and always had a cloud over his head as well. So there's the references, just to bring all that together for our audience, Matt.
Well, you were right. I owe you an apology. You nailed it. I thought you were going for Pigpen, but really you were going for eternally depressed Charlie Brown.
With the football taken away by Lucy, which is a great visual analogy for how Niner fans are feeling right now. But the season rolls on, and we got a big game. Well, they're all big games next week against Atlanta. Matt Barrows writes for The Athletic, the best coverage of the 49ers anywhere. Nobody covers that team better than Matt Barrows. We appreciate you joining us every week, and we'll talk to you a week from today, friend.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks for wearing that athletic hat during our chat. That was really awesome.
Promoting you, buddy. That's what I do. I'm here. I'm here for the gear. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend, brother.
All right, talk to you then.
See ya. That's Matt Barrows of The Athletic. We will take a break. When we come back, what are we playing here?
We're thinking Alan Stiles will be here.
Oh.
Potentially a segment early, because we have to do